Welcome, Pascal.
Picture the 1980s, Montreal, Quebec, and this is me, 6-year-old, and I live on a beautiful street. It's a circular street with a park in the middle where there's a forest and a playground and kids play. It's quite magical. Then my world changed and we moved neighborhoods, and I ended up on a straight street where kids played in their backyards. And I was not impressed with that. So one day, I decided that I was going to cross the street, walk down to the corner, and stand by the mailbox and wait. So then, after waiting for a while, the lady on the bicycle came by, and she had a toddler in the seat with her. And I waved her down. I said, "Je m'appelle Pascal, bonjour." Well, of course, the lady stopped, a 6-year-old on the corner. But yet again, it's the 80s, so I guess it's acceptable. And we had this great conversation. I told her all about my life and my family, and I told her where I live. La maison avec le toit vert, mais la deuxième porte. The house with the green roof, but the second door. And I felt the spark of connection with that lady. And then she went on her way, and I went back in the house. And I didn't tell my mom where I was. I didn't tell her what happened or anything like that. And then the next day, the doorbell rings, and it's the lady and all her kids. And my mom opened the door, and she was surprised. She didn't know what to expect. And they had a great conversation, and they are friends to this day. So then let's fast forward to modern days, different province, big city, and I moved to Mission. And I end up on a straight street, but with a cul-de-sac at the end. And it's filled with trees and wildlife. It's a magical neighborhood. It's quite beautiful. But I want to meet people on purpose, and I don't want to wait by the mailbox. So what should I do? Well, how about a garage sale? There we go. That's a great idea. So I make flyers, and I decide that I'm going to knock on every door in the street, and I'm going to introduce myself. So it's bonjour, hi, I'm not here to sell anything, because that's the first thing you say. And then I explain to them that I want to create a garage sale for the whole street, and I lived on the block, the house with the brown roof. And that day, I made friends. There were sparks of connection. And then we had this great garage sale, which was pretty successful. We had actually quite a few of them so far. And all it took was one flyer, one gesture, and one action. Now, this is a good quote. It's by Margaret Mead. "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." It takes time and courage to knock on a door, organize an event, and just speak to somebody you've never spoken to before. But it's worth it, because after the garage sale, the neighborhood started to do block parties and Halloween parties, and we were very successful. We started with maybe 50 attendees, but we also had 30 volunteers. Rain or shine, they showed up and they set up. And the secret is for the block party to be free. So free food, free activities. And how you get that? You apply for grants and you ask for help, and people show up. That's the thing. People show up. They want the connection, that spark. They want to be part of something. And then we were so successful with our block parties that we actually petitioned to the city to get a block party toolkit. And the city said yes. And so we were known as the Dunsmuir neighborhood. And we're quite a few streets that got together for all these events. Now, in that neighborhood, there are wetlands. Yes, in the middle of a city, there are wetlands, there's a forest, there's bears, there's a stream. There's a long stream, and there used to be crawfish in that stream. And sometimes you have a heron that comes and visits the stream in the middle of the city. So we eventually understood that it was endangered, and we wanted to protect it. So the whole neighborhood got together, and we educated ourselves, we researched, we wrote letters, we talked to city council, we talked at public hearings, and we did a petition. And now the wetlands are mapped. Now the trees did come down, but we found our voice. We found our footing, and we started to talk louder. And our voice is stronger because we stand together. And I realized that je rassemble les gens. I gather people. And eventually, we became that small group that Margaret Meads talked about. And it really takes one person to act so things change. There we go. So this is the way that we function to get things going. We work with inclusion, inviting people in, action, doing something simple but meaningful, and mission, staying connected to a purpose bigger than ourselves. You can start something too, as long as you remember inclusion, action, and mission. You can create workshops, you can create clubs for just to walk, you can even do some potlucks. And you don't need permission, you just need intention. Community organizing it doesn't need money, it doesn't need a title. You don't need to have a perfect plan. You just need to communicate and share with your neighbors your ideas. And they'll share their ideas. And then you start looking after those neighbors and those friends. And that's how you build your neighborhood and your community. There's a snowstorm. Well, is somebody that's disabled and can't shovel, can we go and help that person? There's a heat wave. Well, does that senior or other person have AC? Do we have extra fans? So that's how it starts, and you communicate. I'm gonna go here. So I just have to say something. I have beautiful pictures, and I put them through AI just to keep the kids anonymous, but this was very heavy. Yes, but I'll tell you about that. So after doing successful block parties, changing some policies, and protecting the wetlands, it came to our attention that in our neighborhood there was an unused roadway. There was local wildflowers and blackberries. And there was a developer on the street, and he wanted to park his cars on that property. But a friend mentioned that maybe we could lease that from the city. And so we approached the city, and they said, yes, it could become a hub. But for that, we needed to become a nonprofit. And that is a lot of steps. So 40 people gathered in my backyard. We had a barbecue, we wrote a constitution and bylaws, and we created the Dunsmuir Neighborhood Association. We have our logo, and we even have our t-shirts. We went forward with the project, and that was a big endeavor. So now we found funding to pay for the insurance to be able to lease the property, and now we have the lease property. It's pretty big. It's, it needed some love, but we're very poor. So we were able to partner up with businesses and apply for grants and bursaries and so on. And so far, it's been quite successful. Volunteers come from all over Mission and Hatsik. We're not just a neighborhood group anymore. We have people beyond. We have gardeners and farmers and horticulturists from England who visits Mission and hangs out with us at the garden. So when everybody shows up, everybody comes from different walks of life. We do have seniors, people on assistance, people with disabilities, people raising kids, people navigating loss. And they each bring something special and unique, and that's capacity building. When you give, you feel like you belong, and that's very important. Now, the garden is growing, and we called it the Dunsmuir Urban Community Garden on 9th Avenue, or we call it the Duck Garden on 9th Avenue. And so these are the amazing students of École des Deux Rives. I went and I asked the grade 5-6 class if they wanted to be part of the Duck Garden. And they said yes, but they didn't know what was going to happen to them. These students moved 60 cubic yards of material and built garden beds and planted and learned about food sustainability. And we're actually going to be tasting our first turnip and radishes on Monday. So they've worked very hard, and we were able to work with local businesses who donated materials and have also just loaned us so many tools because we are starting from scratch. And we often just call for help, and you'd be surprised. We have tons of tools. We have a shed now. We have tables. We have, I really invite you to come over. Now, we are more than a garden. We're a web of relationship because we are community weavers. Every step we take, it's a million movements. There's so much work behind everything, and it's such a huge team that is able to work together. Now, nothing is perfect in the garden. You know, it's not quite straight, and everything's a little bit bunched up, and people come in and plant what they want, and then they leave, and it's great. So we have a massive amount of broccoli coming up. Yes, and I planted lettuce, and I'm very proud of watching it grow. And in the middle of that, all of this, we meet so many people, and you make friends, and they carry the weight with you. And when you look around, you realize why you're doing this. You're doing this for community building. You're doing this for the future. And it's a powerful feeling to see all these children being so happy and learning. Now, what can you do? What can you do to start your own project? Well, you don't need a title. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a big budget. You just need to look around. Who needs help? What property could be turned into a garden, or what property or space could be shared? What link is missing? It could be extremely simple. It could be just doing a raffle basket or a food basket for people and seeing who needs any type of help or support or cheering up. Now you just need to say yes to that flyer, or just make the flyer. I'm still that little girl by the mailbox, but in my life I've met the peacemakers, the organizers, the dreamers, and the doers. And, we often cheer each other through screens. We share, we like, we comment, and it has value. However, when you step out of it and into the fresh air of a real conversation, you start to realize that the world isn't that far and you're not alone. And that's when you start to connect with people. And that's when the spark of connection and of belonging happens. So I'll leave you with the words that have guided us this whole time. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Well, we are those citizens, and this is our time. Thank you.